Hello and welcome. And my camera is not up. I need to put my camera on. All right, that's a little better. Good evening, or depending on what time zone you're in, good morning, good middle of the night. I don't know. Whatever you are, we are live on Taking Turns D&D with another episode of Anyone Can DM. This is part 2 of 5. In the last episode, just a couple days ago, Saturday, I did some major plot development for our adventure. And we basically started from nothing and went over a bunch of brainstorming tactics and techniques and started to develop this crazy adventure. Let's take you over to that screen so you can see a little bit of what's going on and we can recap what we got going on over here in Roll20, where we were making our crazy diagram over here. Man, that one got away from us a little bit. It was a little crazy last time. But it showed definitely how, this brainstorming could work. Came into it with zero ideas, zero plans for making an adventure, and came out with something that looks like it may be actually pretty interesting. I may really want to put some polish on this one and put it out there to use. I kind of wish I could use it in our upcoming campaign that's starting on January 17th. So mark your calendars for that as well. That's going to be really cool. I've been working on that adventure for a while now, and that one is becoming expansive. I think two adventures became, like, one adventure turned into sort of like two adventures, and it should be a lot of fun. And yeah, so let's jump into this. Again, last time did a bunch of brainstorming and we ended up with this small town adventure, right? And let me pull up our brainstorming sheet over here too, because this has a lot of clues and different aspects that we decided to use in it. We did make just a completely random die roll in Roll20 to come up with the fact that we're going to make a level 10 adventure, right? I just rolled a d20 and said, let's go. So here we are, CR10, right? And we started talking, obviously, the campaign that I'll be kicking off on January 17th. That, again, we're going to be switching DMs after every adventure. We have like an awesome crew. Everybody has characters made. You can also check out the character creation on our YouTube as well as our last episode of Anyone Can DM. That video is up already as well. And one of the themes of that, right? It takes place on a ship called A Song for Selune. So I just started by going to Forgotten Realms Wiki and typing in Selune, and she is this goddess that has something to do with lycanthropy and good werewolves, right? So we just kind of kicked off from there and did these brainstorming techniques and came up with all kinds of stuff. I don't know if we're going to follow up with the were shark still. We did end up talking about some crazy wares in there, like were aardvark and were bandicoot, right? So I may end up trying to make those, maybe once we get to creating some monsters, like customizing some monsters, maybe I'll see if we can throw one of those in there. And went through just a bunch of word association, tried to sort of build up this whole thing. And where we ended up with, right, was this would be a small town. And the hook into this that we just sort of only came up with one, maybe you have a couple different hooks when you're creating an adventure, right? So that there's a few different threads for your characters to pull on. In this case, we just went with one, that there was knowing your player's party, right? Knowing what the character's wants are. This one would be pretty easy to pull them in with, as they're looking for a specific magic item. For instance, if you know somebody in the party really wants this specific, a magic shield, like a +2 shield that they're ready for at level 10, seems about right. or you know, the rogue really wants a better magic dagger, or whatever the case may be, that it just so happens that they could probably find it at this magic shop out in this smaller town outside the city, right? And they come to the city either for a magic item, and the other thing was, I think we did decide that we had a festival going on too, right? So we had this spring festival, perhaps. I can't remember if it was it a spring festival? Let's hope I wrote it down. Not write it down. But we did. Oh yeah. So we had that there was a festival. We did say it was a spring festival. There we go. It was just further down the page. No big deal. All right. So we have the spring festival. Random idea, inspired by, I think it was actually Gremlins Part 2. Like the second movie, the sequel to the Gremlins. And just thinking it, maybe I just misremembered it or something, but I had this idea for kobolds doing the cannon. So we figured that would be part of this spring festival, that there would be off in one corner, you know, of course there's always music and drinks and whatever else going on, all kinds of fun stuff going on at the spring festival. And we would have kobolds doing the can as like this little random kind of funny intro. As well, you know, there's plenty to drink. We came up with a special beer that was Wholesome Spring Bubbly, this orange flavored kind of champagne ale lager. I think the lager came from the chat, actually, so we're going to make it a orange flavored lager to celebrate spring. And as part of this, there was going to be this big attack on the festival. And we decided that there was this bandits guild, this group of bandits that were actually wereboars. And they would be the ones going in and attacking the festival. And while the PCs are dealing with this attack on the festival, the magic item vendor of the town goes missing. And so they would figure this out soon after the fight, as they went to go try and collect their magic item, and the festival wound down and whatever else. Maybe we'll give them a couple people they could talk to. And maybe if we just want to speed it up, if you wanted to as an option, right, you could always have somebody rush in and say, hey, they ran off with so-and-so, and maybe there's even a chase or something. It depends on if you want to do like one of those action scene chases sort of challenge, and there can be interesting ways to do those. I've definitely seen some write-ups of how to do those interestingly. I don't know if I'm going to get into that for this one particularly, but we'll see. We'll see how the inspiration goes as we go along. So this magic shop vendor goes missing. He's kidnapped by these wereboars, and what are some of the other things in there? We had this, one of our brainstorming techniques was strange bedfellows, right? And we had this halfling and stone giant one as an odd pairing, right? And we decided the stone giant was this shepherd from nearby wilderness that came in, and in exchange for the goodwill of the town and maybe some goods, that he would set up the big Stonehenge decorations for the festival, right? And so that's how he ended up in there. And I think we were going to get into how the halfling was in there. I don't know if I recall 100% anything we had discussed about the halfling just yet, but that could be one of the other NPCs that we use for clues to steer our PCs to the correct paths, right? Because as we're designing this whole plot, we have to leave the breadcrumbs so they can figure out what's going on, right? So we have this halfling is still out there in the open, and we decided, I believe, that the Bandits Guild of Wereboars is actually under the employ of a noble, right? And this is actually a shamed noble from the nearby big city. And in this town, he's a merchant and trying to recover from this shame in the big city, or at least that's how he's getting by for the moment, right? Is working as a merchant in this smaller town, and he hires these werebore bandits to steal from the other merchants, probably, robbing their caravans as they're coming in or leaving the town. And then it turns out that this noble is actually a vampiric thrall of a death-kiss beholder. And we had gone in and I don't remember how we got exactly to having a death-kiss beholder in there, but we decided that we were going with it. And the death-kiss beholder wants more magic powers, which is why it wants either all of the magic vendor's goods, which has been cleaned out as he was kidnapped, right? They took all the stuff. Or maybe it was looking for a specific one in the shop. We don't know yet. But either way, this Death-Kiss Beholder is in this abandoned Beholder stronghold nearby. And it doesn't, like the standard Death-Kiss Beholder, right? Doesn't have any powers like vampires for vampiric thrall. But we decided that that was going to be a plot. We haven't statted anybody, Valexion, and welcome to the stream. Thanks for dropping in and chatting. We haven't statted anything yet, including our Death-Kiss Beholder, which I was just discussing. The only thing we really discussed with it being beyond sort of the standard Death-Kiss Beholder is that it would have this ability to have a vampiric thrall. And I was thinking about it between streams that we may actually use, I believe it's the Warlock Great Old One that has like a pretty cool thrall mechanic, and we may throw that in here. It's not really going to change the CR for the Death-Kiss Beholder because it's not going to be using it in combat or anything. But that's how we're going to explain the shame of this noble, is that he is this type of thrall of the Death-Kiss Beholder, and his shame is actually the Death-Kiss Beholder is responsible for his shame in the big city, where it's pretty simple, right? It's not as smart as a normal beholder. It's actually born of beholder's dreams of blood loss, and so being pretty simple, it hatched some plot in the big city and it failed horribly, which resulted in our noble's shame. And yeah, I think that's about where we left off. And I've had a couple ideas. I know I've spent a little bit of time thinking about this just because I couldn't help it. But I'm not bringing too much back in with me, too much baggage to throw on top of here. There's not, I'm still trying to go with developing this on stream, right? So I'm not just finishing real quickly on a Sunday afternoon so that I can stream it on Monday. It is just what you see, and I just maybe have a couple of extra thoughts rolling around. So what do we do next? So we have this big plot map, right? And we have sort of this this drawing of where we're gonna go, right? So starting from this festival, and the magic shop vendor goes missing. We know that the werebores took him. We're gonna have to give some clues, right, from the fight or recent events, and we did decide at one point that the stone giant would know a little something about it, in being that the werebores had been active, possibly near where he normally resides, right out a little further in the wilderness, probably close to the stronghold, and that he's seen their activity around this this ruined stronghold, right? So that would be a clue that they can talk to the stone giant and after the fight, and sort of give them at least a general direction in the wilderness to go and discover this stronghold, right? And obviously the Death-Kiss Beholder will be in the stronghold. Now, are they going to uncover the shamed noble? Does he necessarily need to be, or she necessarily need to be at the stronghold with the Death-Kiss Beholder? probably not. And maybe that's a little side plot that we uncover with the halfling, right? That may be a good little side plot is for the halfling to discover that, or at least reveal some clues about this shamed noble, since we haven't used this halfling yet. And Death Kiss Beholder is blind and uses some mute gibbering mouther as a seeing eye dog that speaks through the beholder via psychic bond. You know, I'd have to look up the gibbering mouther. I think that, and one of the things that we talked about is being careful about CRs, right? So if we're putting this together for level 10s, let's check roll 20 and just see what a gibbering mouther runs. That could be pretty cool. Yeah, that's a pretty scary looking guy, right? Lots of teeth, very Lovecraftian. Teeth and eyeballs everywhere. All consuming. Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge too, right? So that's not even adding a whole lot to it. It's definitely like a cool little idea that you have there, where you're giving him a blind beholder with a gibbering mouther as a seeing eye dog. A blind beholder. I mean, it's not really a beholder, but it still kind of is, right? Its dominant feature is the giant eyeball. And how does that affect? Does it have like eye powers? I don't think it even does. The one thing, and I think it's a totally interesting idea to have this tie-in for your big bad guy. The one thing I would be really scared of, right? Just devil's advocate here, is you have this CR2 gibbering mouther, 67 HP. This guy's CR10 with 161 HP. On the off chance that any of the party figures it out and they take out this gibbering mouther that's the seeing eye dog, then your big fight, right? The finale fight against the big bad evil guy just becomes brutal. Where you have this blind beholder at disadvantage that can't, it's not able to do anything anymore, right? So I could see something like that working. You would probably, if you really wanted to run something like that, I would suggest in there doing something with the gibbering mouther and making it just a much higher CR so that it could stay in the fight as long as your beholder or your death kiss in this case, right? And so that's something that we could definitely look at. I don't know if I want to go into manipulating a monster that far and trying to figure out all the things to rework, because we have to probably rework its damage. We're going to have to rework its hit points, its armor class, and do a bit of work to bring this from challenge 2 to probably, I don't even know, challenge, we could probably use Kobold. So if we assume 6 at level 10, we got away from the beholder. We added the death kiss, and if we had 2 of those, yeah, so if he was somewhere in the CR 10 range, that may be okay. And you may, I mean, you could even do something like, depending on how you want to run that fight, right? So you could do something like the death kiss, and I'm just going to throw this in because it's CR8, because that's all it's really going off of for this calculator. So if we had like a CR8 gibbering mouther, if we figured out how to do that, because the werebores are also pretty low, right? But maybe some of these are going to be in the final fight, and you just start, yeah, see, once you start adding the numbers, even with the low CRs, it just goes from hard to deadly extremely fast, right? And this might be a little more fun to have a couple of these werebores at the final fight, just to keep with the theme, unless we're just sick of fighting werebores at that part, and have it maybe as a 2-stage combat where they're fighting the werebores in one part of the stronghold and then get into the lair of the Death Kiss. If that's the case, then we probably don't want the Death Kiss to be alone, right? And by itself, it's not even easy, right? It's I think below easy, and so we have to go back to yeah, we have to go in and start adding something else to start bringing that CR up so that we can actually have a fight, right? Because yeah, if we just have this poor Death Kiss by itself, they're just gonna go in and steamroll it, right? The CR10 level first. We're assuming 6 players of level 10, and it may be different, right? You kind of have to modify this depending on how many players. If you only have 4 players, then it's a little bit easier of a fight, right? We can just throw some something a little easier in there. Plan B, an all-seeing beholder, give it level 6 Eagle Totem Barbarian train, and a robe of eyes that goes mad from seeing everything, even by beholder standards. Nice. Yeah. I think with this one, just so that we don't get too far into developing like some crazy monsters, I think I'm going to leave it pretty close where the one modification we're doing is giving it that vampiric thrall from the warlock, right? And so I do want to bring that up just so I can share that with everybody. Warlock. Under classes, it's going to be under patrons. Is yeah. Here we go. So I'm pretty sure it's Great Old One, and here Great Old One has Create Thrall, right? So this is a 14th level. Where they incapacitate a humanoid and then charm it until there's a remove cast spell. And so I think, or until you use this feature again, you can communicate telepathically with it as long as you're on the same plane. So I think what we'll do is for a Death Kiss Beholder, we're going to give it this feature of Create Thrall, right? Which is going to be the way that we sort of fill our little plot hole over here with the Death Kiss relation to the noble, right? So third class become Thrall. Yeah. Right, nothing to see here. And he may not, I don't see a reason to have this noble at the end fight anyways, right? So it's not going to do a whole lot except for just explaining the story a little bit. And that's if they go in and uncover the story, right? They do have to pull the threads. Now, your party or my party may go straight along and just skip the merchant altogether, never finding out that this noble in the town, this merchant noble in the town is the cause of all this trouble. And they may just end up thinking that it was the Death Kiss on its own. So there's that. We're already starting to have multiple outcomes, right? By having these links where if they don't pull all the threads, then depending on which hooks and threads they follow, that they can have a different outcome. So even though this is somewhat of a railroady type of adventure, right? Where it seems pretty straightforward. There's this bad guy and it does this bad thing and now we're going to go get it, right? And it's really a rescue, right? We're trying to rescue the magic shop vendor and get rid of the bad guy. But there's also this sort of hidden bad guy in there that isn't necessarily for combat, but from a social aspect. And if they don't pull the right threads and do the right investigation, they're not even going to get to that. So it's kind of cool that as you're developing even the simplest of adventures, it's a little less, it starts to become a little less railroady, right? You give these options in there where the player's choices have an effect on the outcome. And that's the kind of stuff that makes the players feel like they have a little more power to influence the world around them. Although I think even in a case like this, it may be hard for them to see, right? That if they don't discover the noble, it'll definitely be hard for them to see. And they're going to be like, oh, this was sort of a standard linear adventure. Go kill the bad guy. Whereas if they do discover the noble, which I think you'll want to try and help them, right? You're going to want to try and leave a couple of clues, because when they realize that there's this other guy pulling the strings in town also, having his strings pulled by the Death Kiss, and that there was sort of this extra stuff, and hey, we could have completely missed that and never found out about it, they'll feel a little more empowered that their choices are affecting the different outcomes, right? It's sort of like getting the good ending of the choose your own adventure, right? Does anybody ever do those anymore? The choose your own adventure books where you flip to page 69 and, oh, cool, you destroyed the Death Kiss Beholder. All right, so we're going to be developing today our villains, our NPCs, and some of our locations, right? Not necessarily doing the maps, but starting to develop these major plot points and making sure that they have purpose and challenge, and that there has to be the way, I'm trying to remember who was Angry DM or somebody who's like does this pretty cool stuff on the web. Look it up if you like reading about DM like self-improvement DM type of stuff. He writes some good stuff sometimes. I like a lot of it. It's what is the dramatic question, right? For all the encounters, we don't want to have an encounter just for the sake of an encounter. Right? Because I mean, sure, if you're just trying to do a dungeon crawl, just throw monsters in. I mean, make a random dungeon, throw the monsters in, and let people like whack them, right? And take their stuff. And you just have like a little murder hobo adventure. Don't spend a lot of time on it like this. You're gonna spend time on it like this, then you want to make it so that there's a point, right? That there's a story, that it pulls people in, that it, especially one of the things that's going to be absent in this case is we don't have characters, right? So I don't have a party in mind for this adventure, and I don't know what to pull in from their backgrounds where you can relate it. And when you can start to do that stuff like that, that's where the magic really happens, because maybe this halfling that we're looking at on our screen here is related to the halfling in your party somehow, right? Or maybe the noble is, right? And it becomes sort of a double rescue mission and investigation. There's a couple different ways, you know, maybe even maybe the werebores are the victims in this, right? I mean, don't be afraid to mix stuff up and be like, we have to save the dragon from the evil princess. That's not, I didn't come up with that. I read that somewhere, but surprise people a little bit, right? But in this case, I mean, let's just start, right? So let's just start developing a little bit of stuff. Some of the stuff is, so we're kind of, one of the ways that I chose to go here with this adventure is sort of going big to small, right? And we may skip back and forth and influence back and forth, like where the small details influence the big ones as well. But I did start brainstorming sort of from the top down, right? The other way you can do it is you can start from something really small and build up from there, right? Like you could start from a specific magic item or something like that and start to build an adventure around it as well. So don't be afraid. This definitely isn't the only way. It's probably not the best way. I don't know. This is one of my ways of making an adventure, and I'm just trying to share that because I haven't seen a lot of these out here. I'm definitely not Matt Mercer, so when he makes his how to make an adventure stuff, go watch that stuff because it'll probably be a little better. So I did want to mention that though. And then in here, we have a lot of our general details, right? And so we're going to try and go through here and start refining it. We don't have to get too specific today, but each step of the way we want to start getting more and more specific. And Oh, one of the things that I did not mention, and especially today as we're getting into locations, possibly setting up some of our story beats, right? Like some of our RP between NPCs and the characters. Maybe even we want to have some RP between the characters and the werebores. And when you have something like that, right, where you have this NPC interaction with something that's potentially an enemy, then you have to be very careful because one of the things as you start to DM, right, is to always expect the unexpected. And beyond that, always expect combat. Because if you have something that you don't necessarily, you want your players to go in and RP with, and you had it set up as that, then they may just kill it. And I think what was it? It was in the, I can't remember. It was in, they had it in Critical Role, and I saw it. I'm sure I wasn't the only one. So many people saw it coming that they were in some kind of like underground passage, and from across the way in the dark, one of them sees this Nothic, right? And he describes it not as a Nothic, but he does describe the spines and the giant eyeball, and it's sitting at the edge of a well or something like that. And it just looks kind of creepy in the dark. And you could tell, I mean, it was because it's so low CR compared to even where they were at the time. And you could tell it's such a fun little creature to go in and RP that he wanted to do more with it, but they just happened to like huck a knife at it or something like that and just popped it into the well, like dead before it ever got a chance to speak. And you know that there was like this missed opportunity, right? So always expect combat, because it's D&D, and some of your players are just going to shoot first and ask questions later. So be prepared for that. Try and be prepared for that. If nothing else, make an extra combat map. And one of the things that I try and do is to not necessarily, even if I want to show a place, it gets really tough sometimes. You want to show it, and so you make a map of it, right? And you're like, this map, and it'll be really cool. I can make it in Incarnate or in Roll20 or wherever, and I'm gonna make this cool looking map. And as soon as players see that, boom, it means combat, right? So watch yourself on that. But yeah, so let's get into this. I'm gonna flip to my next page just to make sure I don't miss anything. So on our major points and key details this time, right? We're gonna go to key details, figure out really what's important and interesting in this adventure, the key features, if we have anything that's unique or special features, put in our, yeah, and I think that's probably a good place to start, actually, right? So our key details, what is it that we want to emphasize? Some of the cool stuff that we're doing is this vampiric Thrall, right? So we have this like secondary villain that is actually a Thrall. Is he a villain, or maybe he's even a victim, right? That's a victim here. And I think if we make him the victim as a Thrall, then we don't want to make the werebores victims as well. So we can just make them sort of bad guys, right? So they're just going to be cannon fodder, basically, to go in, and they're, you know, being used, but they are bad guys, bad guy werebores, and they're villains anyways. It just so happens that they're falling into this scheme. We have an unlikely ally in the stone giant. Usually that would be an enemy, right? And in this case, it's going to be a source of information, and we already know that he's going to be providing clues to the stronghold location, and there's this recent werebore activity near there, and a magic shop vendor. So we can make something probably interesting and unique here, depending on how we make this character, but I also don't want to spend too much time on that, because remembering this adventure, this vendor is going to be gone for the entire adventure, right? So if we can think of something maybe endearing that helps to want to motivate the players to go find him and rescue him, then that may help. But other than that, I don't want to spend too much time on it, right? Because they're only really going to meet this magic shop vendor at the end. And once they've rescued him or her. And then they can deal with them. It would be good to have them be an interesting NPC to talk to for a couple minutes so that they can get their magic item reward or whatever at the end. And they may want to like spend some money with them beyond that or come back another time if they're a really interesting NPC. But beyond that, for at least for this adventure, they're not going to be involved so much, right? Maybe a little RP in the denouement, the resolution after the climax. But we do have an opportunity to make the stone giant a little interesting, and this halfling, right? And then I think let's just pull up the brainstorming again and just see what else we had in here. And if anything else seems kind of interesting. One of the things that I thought was kind of cool was, and I don't remember how we came up with it, because they were just, they were random, right? So like I said, rainbows, I didn't say dark, but we did end up with like strange bedfellows. So we used the nobles and the thieves guild, although in this case it's the bandits guild, and we have the halfling and the giant. So it would be fun to like think of some link here. And the other thing, this was just a random thing I was thinking, because it's stuck in my brain over the last couple days, was rainbows in the dark, right? And I think that anyone can DM sounds like some commercial. You aren't feeling ready to be the babysitter of adults or don't want some random person derail your campaign you just worked on. Just buy our new module. Never forget, anyone can DM, right? Yeah, well, that's great. I'm glad it sounds like somebody put some thought. I put a little bit of thought into it, but mostly, honestly, the thing is I'm just hoping my big goal for the year is to inspire one person that's never sat behind the DM screen to give it a shot. And so I'm trying to provide some of the tools that I use to make an adventure so that people can pick what they like, and hopefully it inspires them to make some. One of the things that did inspire me since we talked last time was Rainbows in the Dark, and this comes from rather randomly a video game, a D&D video game. If you've played Dungeons and Dragons Online, which I played a bit in the past, it's pretty fun. It's this whole MMO that's set in Eberron, and it does like overlap into Forgotten Realms for some stuff. Free to get started, so if you've never played it, check it out. It's still going after like, I don't know, like 15 years or more, but it's a fun time killer. It could be fun to get into and play a little bit. But one of my favorite adventures in DDO, Dungeons and Dragons Online, is called Rainbow in the Dark. And I can't make, you beat me to it because you already started DMing. Well, congratulations. Is that your first game that you're DMing now? Or did you just start a new campaign? And then, so DDO, my favorite adventure in DDO, because you have this MMO, and for some reason, like one of the things that's usually a thing in Dungeons and Dragons is torches, lanterns, light, right? And throughout all of DDO, you never need a torch or a lantern, except in this one quest, Rainbow in the Dark. It's the coolest thing. One of the players has to carry around a torch to get through the level, right? And so that you can see it. I guess you don't technically have to, but you literally can't see anything if you're not carrying it, right? So maybe if you memorized it, which some people probably do, you could speed run it and just jump everything and do everything in the dark. But it's the only quest where you need to go around with like this light source. And in it, they have this puzzle, and I can't remember 100% the puzzle. It mostly has to do with, I wouldn't even call it necessarily a puzzle. I think you just step on the tiles. Each tile changes color the more times you step on it, and you have to set it up in the pattern of a rainbow, right? So Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? Super easy puzzle. And honestly, sometimes those are the best, right? So even for something like pen and paper D&D, unless you have people that are super into puzzles, you can make it feel good to solve a puzzle because it seems like a puzzle, even if it's pretty easy. And I've tried to do pretty complex ones before, and it can really backfire. One of the things you have to remember as you're doing these is that if you don't provide enough clues to get through it, to figure it out, even if your players are really smart, you are their eyes into the world, right? You're describing everything they see. So if you don't describe it, or you don't describe it in a way that they understand and visualize it, then they can't necessarily see it. And they don't often see it the same way that it's in your own head. I remember writing an adventure, and I had this cool puzzle to get down into a mine that the kobolds had taken over. This was a low-level adventure, and it seemed like a pretty easy puzzle. It was this apparatus for an elevator that was stuck, and the whole puzzle was just figure out how the elevator works, right? And there were little clues that they could go find. There was like a sketch and some owner's manual, and there was like a couple of directions for like, icons near the levers, and some indications that there had been livestock turning this one wheel. And basically all they had to do was like turn off the brake and turn the wheel, and then reset the brake, and they could ride the elevator down. And then they just really had to figure out how could they make the transitions and get everybody down to the level to start it. So I had sketches that I had done and everything to try and describe it and show how it looked, and just did not connect with the audience, right? Did not connect with the players. I could not describe it in a way that it made sense to them. So they ended up, I think they ended up basically destroying the elevator itself. I think they cut the rope or something so that it fell down in the shaft, and then they just literally scaled the elevator shaft to get down. Or no, they released the brake and let it all the way down and decided never to screw with it again until they managed to find it again at the very bottom after they were done with the adventure and were able to ride it up. But as far as getting down, they literally scaled down the walls of the elevator shaft rather than taking the elevator, because as a DM, I screwed up the explanation, right? It wasn't a simple up and down button. It was a bit of a puzzle. It did have some complications in that because they didn't solve it the right way. They had to make some athletics rolls, and I think it's been so long I can't remember. I'm pretty sure somebody slipped and there was like some form of feather fall or rescue to save them so that they wouldn't die at the bottom of the elevator shaft. There was something. It still ended up being a little bit fun, but my point is, right, you have to be careful with these puzzles. So one of the things that I want to do with this is just do like a pretty simple puzzle, like they have in Rainbow in the Dark from DDO, which is basically ROYGBIV, like 7 tiles that they're going to have to light up in the color of a rainbow. And maybe we'll have something to do with like a prism on a rod that's shining the light, and as they that'll give them some clues or something, but just something to make it fairly simple. And maybe it'll be like a side path, right? So something to discover an extra treasure room or something, to where if they don't solve it, no big deal. They're going to be like, I wonder what that whole thing was about. I really didn't get it. Maybe if I screw up how I'm telling it. But if they do figure it out, then hey, cool. Bonus, right? Extra treasure. And so maybe that's where this extra treasure cache will be from either the Death Kiss or the Wereboars, maybe their secret stash or something like that, right? So what else is important in here? So I could throw that in here, or we can throw some text in here. Where'd my text go? There we go. I know I need 40, right? We did 40 last time. And so I'm just going to put it off to the side here. Rainbow in the Dark. It sounds kind of cool too. Rainbow in the Dark. And that will be our... Where's my shape? My shapes. Circle. Yeah. That was not good. That was not good. Rainbow in the Dark. This will be our puzzle, right? And from here, no, yeah, why not? That's freehand. All right. Rainbow in the dark. And this will be to like extra treasure, right? And some sort of extra treasure that we'll throw in there. And that'll be like a little bonus there for our characters if they can figure out like this cool, just to throw a little puzzle in there because, you know, why not? Throw a little puzzle in for them. And what else? So we want them to discover, right? We were talking a little bit earlier that one of the cool things is that we have this hidden bad guy, right? He's actually really more of a victim that's involved in this plot, that if they don't ask the right questions and don't pull the right threads, then they may never know, because this shamed noble, who's the merchant of our town, is a vampiric thrall to the Deathkiss Beholder and is helping enact these plots, right? So the real link here is hiring these bandits, the Wereboar bandits, to do all this stuff and, you know, steal the magic shop contents and the vendor. And that's the one plotting on the behalf of the Deathkiss, but he's also just a thrall, right? And so if they don't discover that, then it seems more like, oh, the Wereboars kidnapped this guy, and we know that they're operating somewhere near this stronghold because the stone giant tells us that they're kind of linked to the stronghold. And then we end up finding this Deathkiss Beholder, but we don't really understand, because are we going to stop to talk to the Deathkiss Beholder, or are we just going to fight it? They may just opt to fight it, right? They may not have, unless you build in your epic villain monologuing at the beginning of your fight, then they may never even find out, right? Like, what's going on with this Deathkiss Beholder. And we are Necropons. Welcome to Taking Turns D&D Chat. Thanks for joining us. And we are preparing a adventure. So we worked on sort of the major plot points and developed a lot of brainstorming and stuff last time on Saturday. That episode is also available on our YouTube. And this time we're going to try and get into some of the detail, right? We're going to start trying to develop our NPCs and our villains, right? And make kind of pull in all these plot points as we start answering the questions of why are they doing this thing? How are these things linked? Why are they linked? And what do we really want to highlight? So we've been getting into that a little bit as far as highlighting that, definitely highlighting that we have this relationship between our Deathkiss Beholder and our noble, and that he's kind of a victim. And we want them to discover that as well. So we do want to start developing, we need to start brainstorming something and how this halfling is going to be prominent enough that the players want to talk to them, whether that's a him or her. And how does this halfling have some information about this noble, right? And I do want to start organizing a little bit, and how I'm going to generally do that, right? We talked about our acts last time, how we were going to structure our story, and a couple ways that you could do that. The one that we're kind of pulling from is Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, the sitcom plot, which basically had our intro and then 3 acts, right? And so a lot of times if I'm writing and I want to save myself double work from writing on paper and then going back into Roll20, I'll get into Roll20 and start making these notes. And in the adventure that I'm preparing for our new campaign, I actually do this, right? So in this one, I'm just going to call this one and it doesn't matter. Like for instance, in mine, I just have it called Adventure 1. In this one, let's call it what would be like, I don't know, we'll need to come up with a name for our adventure so that we can sell it on DM's Guild or something. I don't know. So I just go and put this in my edit and my journals, and don't worry about a file here, but this is where I want to go, because this is actually be handout This won't be a handout that I'll share with my players. This is just for me. And here I'm just going to start with our intro, Act 1, Act 2, I did Act I, and then there we go. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, right? And we talked about that a little bit last time from here as we were going through Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt example of a pilot and using this as a way to define interesting ways to put your story together, right? Because even though you're not just writing a story, keeping in this pacing and the different places to throw in action and twists and stuff like that will engage your players because it's something that they're used to, right? For the most part, almost everybody is watching TV now around the world and has seen some form of like sitcoms or drama shows, and they follow a lot of this. I mean, this script is applied to so many different types of stories, and in this shorter form, it works really well, right? So we have our opening, right? And so this we've already decided is at our festival, right? So we have this festival, boom, attack, right? So the festival is attacked. They get to explore the new world a little bit. This is where they're going to get a chance to talk to some NPCs and figure out this magic item vendor is gone, right? And start gathering some clues. And so this is really the inciting incident is really the discovery that the magic item vendor that they came to visit is gone and they need to find him, right? So in that we'll get into Act 1, where they have their complications, first trial. We talked about possibly doing a B and C story with this one, but not necessarily. And that would be where your A story is your main plot, right, for your episode, straight ahead. And your B and C are off to the side. So we may have like a little bit of a B story in that victimization of the noble, being a victim of the beholder and trying to discover a little bit of that. That will be sort of our B plot. For the C plot, we really could use the giant if we wanted to develop like a secondary story there. We could also very well use the wereboars, right, and say maybe something to do with their curse and give if we come up with some details about how we can fix them and redeem them from banditry or something, right? Or they're just cannon fodder. But we could always throw like something in there that if discovered, perhaps the players could redeem and get rid of their vampiric or their were curse, their lycanthropic curse. And so maybe there's a C story there, right? And then actually maybe our C story, right? Since we're talking about ABC stories, maybe our C story has something to do with the rainbow in the dark and getting the extra treasure from this beholder stronghold that's been abandoned and taken over by this death kiss. So maybe that's our C plot. And the things we can do here as well. So we'll do, our overview, right, for our whole plot, just so we don't lose the plot as we're developing it, right, is, so we got A story is our magic item vendor goes missing at festival attack. Goes missing at the festival attack. Characters, not the players. Characters were going to visit them and now should rescue them, right? And we hope that our players are going to pull this thread and go rescue him. Theoretically, and you may have to be prepared for it, your players could be like, nah, screw that. We'll just go to a different store, right? We'll go back to the city. I don't want to mess with wereboars, and possibly I don't want to get bit and it sounds icky and whatever. They're just like, nah, whatever. Pull chocks. We're out. And there goes your whole adventure. So hopefully you have them invested at this point that they were going to, so we could say that we have the PCs going to purchase a magic item from the magic item vendor. But he goes, they go missing. And so hopefully you have some level of commitment that they've come to this town to check out this festival and pick up this magic item. And he goes they go missing, and now they're going to rescue him, right? So that's your A story. And then our B story is probably the shamed noble merchant is a vampiric thrall it likes underlining stuff. You guys probably can't even see this. I wish I could make it bigger in here. I don't know if I can. I can. I absolutely can by making a header 1. Ooh, look at that. Does that look a little... Yeah, now you can read it. Okay, better. Vampiric thrall of death kiss. Right, so that's kind of our B story, shame noble merchant. And then C story will be rainbow in the dark, leading to abandoned beholder stronghold treasure. So now, just by wanting to throw in this little puzzle, right, we actually have come up with like a whole C story, right, where we're going to have, maybe as long as they go in and sort of pull some threads and do a little bit of investigating, that they can discover that, hey, there's also this treasure up there, and that'll give them a little more incentive to go up to this abandoned beholder stronghold, right? And now we actually do have 3 stories, right, that we're trying to tell. And again, having the multiple stories go on at the same time, it's another little trick to make your world feel a little more real, right? So you're not just telling like this single Hansel and Gretel story. You're telling the story about Hansel and Gretel, but in the same forest there's also the big bad wolf, and there are breadcrumb leaving pixies that leave false trails. And then you have like 3 stories in the forest, right, instead of just the single one, and it becomes a little bit more complicated. In this case, they're all more related than that crazy nonsense I was just talking about that we'll just disregard. All right, so we have this mysterious note, right? One of the only things I don't like about doing it this way is that I have to save it every time, and then in order to minimize it and see what I have behind it. But that's fine. One of the cool things is that you can start to link it, right? So here I have this mysterious note. I'm going to create another handout, and in this one I'm just going to call this one intro, right? And I'm going to do the same thing over here, and we'll make it header 1, intro, save changes. So now that I've saved this, and I have this other handout over here, right? So I haven't, go in the order I tell you to be in. Thank you. So this mysterious is going to be adventure master plan. All right. So now in adventure master plan, and I'll use this to run my adventures too. So I go to intro, put it in these little square brackets, right? Save. Oh, dang. Now let's say I close this. So now let's say I want to go run this adventure in Roll20, and I'm going probably not actually off of this sheet, but maybe. And I go, okay, session 1, we're gonna go through, I know I'm gonna start at the intro. Boom, click it up, and there we have our intro. So let's work on our intro. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of our master plan. One of the things that I'll probably do just to keep it in front of me is keep the A, B, and C story open, actually. Just so I can keep it in mind, right? I wanna keep in mind what are the story goals that we're trying to look through. right? So in our intro, go back to editing. And here, go ahead and expand this out. So this is our intro section. So we know in our intro, we're basically the festival, right? So this is the festival. Let me go back to header. So this is Spring Festival. And then let's just say you had some pictures or something that you wanted to share. So you could do your brackets again, right? Spring Festival. You could create a handout. Call this one. Make sure they're exact. If they're not exact, then the link isn't going to work, right? And so I'll put this here in my journal. And then, for instance, I could put a picture in here. Let's just put in, I don't know, like whatever. You could find some picture that you like of your festival or Stonehenge, right? So say, yeah, let's put in like a Stonehenge Festival. And I'm not actually going to use this, I guess, but because I don't want to steal people's art, but these are just photos and stuff, right? So this is like, is there like a spring festival? This looks kind of, sure. So we'll use this. So I'm going to save this picture as, ooh, taking turns, new folder, anyone can DM. All right, and so this will be my festival pick. Save. All right, so now in Roll20, and this may be something that I'll want to share with the players, right? So it should put my festival pick in there, and I can say, yeah, there's kind of the Stonehenge in the middle of town on the big green. And you can actually share this with your players when you get in here. And then you can have a description of what goes on at this festival, right? And the Spring Festival of Small Townsburg. I don't know. Whatever your town is named, right? So you can name this if it's a town that's in your campaign. You go in and pick something off of like a Forgotten Realms map. We can make this, and that's probably, I mean, usually I'm setting all my stuff in Forgotten Realms, so I would go like Sword Coast map, and let's see, we get the high res. No, okay, that's the low res. I know there's a high res one out there somewhere. Open image in new tab. Yeah. So Amphale. Let's say this takes place in Amphale, right? So we have the Spring Festival of Amphale where Stone Giant comes in and sets up this henge, and everybody plays with, rolls hoop and juggles fire, and there's kobolds doing can, right? So this is a daytime festival. Well, going into night, kids rolling hoops and playing catch, people drinking, and definitely kobolds doing the can to festival music. And in Amphale, so this is what's going on at the festival, and we know there's going to be an attack. One of the things that we really want to get to in here, right, is that we're going to want to have a name for, so we want to start detailing this out, right? So from here, let's see, there is an attack by the whereboar bandits, which we will call, what do we want to call the bandits of the whereboars? Something with the tusk, chipped tusk, the sharp tusk, the bloody tusks. The bloody tusk bandits. All right. So I'll take this out. I am not typing big enough for you guys right now because I'm selfish. Because I forgot to put this all in header 1 for you all. All right, so the Spring Festival of Ampale, daytime festival goes into the night, kids rolling hoops, playing catch, music, people drinking and dancing, kobolds doing the can to the festival music. All right, there's an attack by the bloody tusks. All right, and so those are wereboar bandits. And what I will do here is I'm probably going to do add character, and this will be wereboar bandit. All right, so this is just going to be in my journal. I don't have any players in this game. It's created solely just for creating this. So I create this, save changes after we give it a name, and then it's going to ask me like, hey, do you want to use Charactermancer? Absolutely not. No. I got a character sheet. Do you want to use Charactermancer? No. I don't want to create an entire wereboar. I want to create an NPC. And I'll go over here and get a wereboar. And then here, drop it over there. Boom, you get a wereboar. All right, so simple, normal wereboar, challenge 4. And can't speak in boar form. You guys are gonna come in and be in hybrid form, right? So when they come in and attack, they'll be this hybrid form of humanoid type boar. And we'll have a bunch of them, right? So we can afford to have just a whole bunch, I think. So if we just go with wereboar, and why not? We'll just figure out. So we have, I think we're making this for 4 to 6 player. Let's just say 5. Let's just do 5. Screw it. We're going to do 5 players, level 10, because they're a level 10 adventure. So we're going to go in, and how many wereboars can we throw at before it gets really bad? 7 before it gets really bad, right? So, and I'm just using this. It definitely helps if you know your characters and their abilities better. Like, are they just going to be able to completely wipe these guys out? It's possible, right? So, like, if we look up wereboar in the compendium and get the stats. Actually, I had the stats already open, I guess, right? I just dragged and dropped it. 78 hit points at level 10. How much damage are your characters doing? Probably each of them are doing like 20 points of damage per round. I don't know where I'm even taking that from. It's just like a random off the top guess. Probably 20 to 30 if they're like a real like munchkin-y DPS, right? So this guy's gonna last 4 rounds. He's gonna take 4 attacks. They got multiple attacks. So yeah, as we start piling them on, there's definitely gonna be more. But remember, we don't have to bring them all in at the same time. They're sort of raiding the festival and attacking different parts of it. They're probably biggest thing that they're trying to do is create this distraction, right? So that they can, what they're actually trying to do is to kidnap this magic item vendor that we need to put in here. So that's probably where the big bad of the wereboar is going to be. So all we're going to see right now is just our run-of-the-mill wereboar bandits, right? They have these attacks, and probably we'll just to make them more bandity, we'll give them like I don't know, at this level, like some sort of longbow attack or something. Oh, crossbows maybe. We'll like throw them a crossbow. Maybe a light crossbow so that they can at least do like some D8 from range, and they have a maul, right? So that's going to be every one of those can be taken out some poor villager too, right? So there's going to be a lot of casualties. So we can just throw these werebore. So I made the werebore bandit, right? And we can leave this. We could, if we wanted to get into it, we could add light crossbow as an attack, and this is ranged reach. I don't know, what is it, 6180 or something for a light crossbow. We can look it up later. Doesn't really matter. To hit is whatever these are, +5, right? So I think we still want our +5. I think we want to put that one here. We're going to do like a 1d8 piercing. And description, yeah, we don't really need it. Range attack +5, 1d8 plus, that's dex, right? So +0, that's fine. But it'll give them, a couple of them, some ranged attacks, right? So cool. Easy enough. So now our bandits have light crossbows, and we'll dress them up, give them a little description that makes them seem more bandity, right? With the rakish hats or something, and yeah, whatever. All right, so we got our werebore bandit, and I should be able to, he's here, so I can just close him, right? And then when I get there, my little handout, so I can save it. I'll go back to editing it, but I can show you when I save it, then I get to see my festival picture, and I think, yeah, so that's not going to show to the players. I could take this whole description if I wanted to share this and put it into the GM notes, and that way when I did, but the cool thing, I have this picture, I have this link now, right? So let's say we cut it, you can just put it straight into the GM notes, I guess, if you want. If you ever thought that you'd have this picture to share with your players, you can just go straight to GM notes, doesn't matter. And so what that'll do, this is only visible to you or anybody with the GM role. And when you go show to players, it will show them this handout, but they'll just get the picture and whatever description you leave in the regular description. They won't see whatever's in your GM notes, and then they could like open this up and go, oh, cool, yeah, that is a Stonehenge. I like having pictures. I'm a visual person, so it's going to be really hard for me going into our new campaign, because you can't just steal pictures like this and throw them into your adventure. I mean, you can. Not with that attitude, you can't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like just taking stuff. Well, I'm using this as an example, but I generally won't use art like in my finished product without giving some type of credit. Anywho. All right. So we have an attack by the Bloody Tusks, the werebore bandits, right? And we know that, let's flip over here, 7 of them becomes deadly. So first battle of the adventure, don't know if your players have already fought werebores or not, right? So here, I'm probably not going to go, if I don't know how to balance it, I'm going to stick to like, let's just keep this light and fun and keep it on like medium or hard, right? And maybe just the tip of hard, right? Like just the beginning of hard. I don't want to go like full on. Give them an easy win just to like sort of get the blood pumping and get them into it, right? And now they're like, oh man, yeah, he pretty good hit. He hit me with that big stick, and I want to go get his buddies now, right? I don't know, whatever. And yeah, so let's not like kill them at the very beginning of the adventure. So they'll just need to get a little patched up. So we're gonna say like 4 to 5. So if you had 4 players, you could probably go down to 4, and if you had 5 or 6 players, maybe stay at 5. And worst comes to worst. If the worst comes to worst, if it gets really bad, then you have a halfling and a stone giant at least, and then maybe you can pull in some town guard or something like that to help soak up some damage, right? But at least for this group that's attacking where the party is, we'll say that there's 5 of them there, and possibly like a couple others you know, busying up the town guards that could always be freed up and come to the rescue, right? So, so there's an attack by the Bloody Tusks. So we'll do 5 of the Wereboar Bandits versus PCs, and then we'll do a couple others. A few others are seen fighting town guards, right? And what does this mean? It means that we probably want to have some stat blocks for our backup as well, just to be ready, right? Expect the unexpected. Wereboars come in, there's 5 of them. This should be like an easy to hard battle, and the players just roll like crap, and they are just getting smoked, and you as the DM are rolling like crit after crit. So what do? Well, we got some backup, right? So we have our stone giant, right? So we're gonna add another NPC character. Our stone giant and mine, and then now we can actually start detailing this guy a little bit, this stone giant a little bit, as soon as we get in here and get our character sheet. Create an NPC over here. I'm gonna pull the stone giant in. Hey, a little bit of backup. All right, cool. So now we have stone giant in our back pocket, and then we're gonna have what is our halfling? What should it this halfling with some knowledge of halfling with the knowledge of the noble, what he was shamed for in the city, trying to unravel the links to the Wereboars and the Death Kiss, and also a little bit capable of fighting. So he's going to know all these stories, probably something like a spy. Let's say he's like a bard with a spy background. So let's look up a bard. And if I just do bard, CR2, yeah, whatever. Hit points 44. Cantrips, so you can charm. Thunderwave would help out a little bit. Vicious Mockery. It's got a little healing word. So if they get into a little trouble, even the CR2 bard can help to turn the tide, right? Like a little healing word at the right time from a friend. A little help from a friend could be great. So sometimes that could be enough if you just are not sure, right? So I would just create another character, NPC. This will be our halfling bard that we'll name in a little bit. And there we go. Save changes, and we'll pull over our bard character sheet, create an NPC, and go here, drop our bard in there. Boom, we got a bard. Boom. All right, there we go. Let's go. All right, so these are in our back pocket, and then maybe I'm pretty sure there's one for just guard as well. So if we really need to, we can just pull in some guards and journal, add character, NPC, generic town guard. And we can come up in the description. We don't have to do a character sheet or an NPC for each one, right? We could just call it town guard. We need to call it generic. And then in their description, I can always edit it, or even just in my notes, and just roll up like a bunch of names. I usually just do like random generators and just find some that sound cool. Although sometimes stuff comes to me and I just come up with it, and then that's what it is, right? So either way, if you want to spend the time where you have it, so get the adventure together, and then if you have more time to go over and you want to name like every single townsperson that these guys could possibly talk to, then you can do that. character sheet, create an NPC, and then here, guard, right? Yep, I'm sure that's what we want. Guard, yeah, any race, humanoid. They have some hit points and they'll do some damage, right? So they can always throw some spears. You could change it if you want to have other options. You could change, like, add a short sword in here. Might even be able to drag and drop. Probably could. Short sword. Sword, one word. Okay, look at that. I can just drop in a short sword, and I can drop in light crossbow. Let's just give him a short bow. Yeah, it seems like, I don't know. What do you think? Short bow? Or do we have bowmen? Bows are definitely cheaper. Small town, short bow. There we go. So now we have the option to have ones with spears or ones with short sword and short bow, depending on which ones you want. All right, we'll lock that up. And now they have, look, magic. We made a town guard with a short bow and a short sword. Neat. Again, these are just like backup to have. They're not going to go on the adventure with our folks, but if we get way off in our first combat, that's what we're going to do. So combat, we've kind of covered how that's going to go without going out and drawing a map, and we'll get into that when we get into some of the more detailed stuff. But I'm not going to worry about that today. What we do want to do is, once they're done, so aftermath. All right, so here we have to do this all the time. In the aftermath of the attack, we want the PCs to start figuring stuff out. So how do PCs find out magic item vendor is missing? And while we're at it, who is our magic item vendor? All right, so I'm going to put this, and I think, we could really come up with anybody. This is just your discretion, making up an NPC, and what do you want them to be like? So in this case, we want this hoarder of a NPC. This hoarder, they just like collect all the magic items, and they're kind of a shut-in, so that's why they didn't go to the festival. And so what does this person look like? It's like a retired D&D player, right? Like hoarding dice, and they just let their beard grow out and didn't get a haircut this week. And no, but too close to home. All right. So this is our magic item vendor. And I am not thinking of any names that just scream magic item vendor to me. So I'm going to go Ampale, wherever Ampale is, right? So let's just see what's in Ampale. So D&D realms, Ampale. It's a village. Cool. Village where... Stop with the ads, jeez. All right, cool. Village, mostly humans, few half-elves, dwarves, halflings, and other races. All right, let's do a half-elf. And half-elf name generator. Yeah, cool. Half-elf names, fantasy name generators. Love this website and use it all the time. FantasyNameGenerators.com. I usually just say a race and search for it, right? For a name. Hey, Qualamir. I also generally want to find something that I can pronounce, right? Because I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, you guys are going to rescue Qualamir. Zave Craze. You're going to go rescue Zave Craze. Xave Craze. Wallamir. Chrysarif. Chrysarif. His name should be Chrysarif Rissarif. That would be horrible. That would be horrible. We're doing it. Chrysarif Rissarif. All right. So that is our antisocial magic vendor's name. Chrysarif Rissa. Chrysarif Rissarif. Everybody meet Chrysarif Rissarif. What? I love it. I love it a little bit. I think it's horrible, but it's amazing. All right. So how do they find out Chrysarif Rissarif is missing? Let's just have some kids like run in. Right. So, and I'll just do a little let's see, local kids run in screaming. They've taken Chrysarif. Can you imagine kids like running and screaming? They've taken Chrysarif Rissarif. No, they've taken Chrysarif. Yep, that's all they're gonna do. And maybe the PCs are going to overhear it. They'll start talking to the guards, and maybe the PCs are going to want to go talk to some guards. So for this scene, right, what we probably want, Chrysarif Rissarif doesn't need to be in this scene because they have been, he the half-elf, has been abducted, right? So we go in, fighting. We do need our stone giant's name. We need our halfling giant's name. Probably a couple town guards, right? So I'm on header 1. So we need down here. I'm just going to put in my NPCs. Dear Lord, stone giant. What if I do stone giant? And I do enter, and then it stays big. Awesome. All right, there we go. So town guard, 1 or 2 of these folks we can make up. Go again. I'm just gonna go make up some names, right? So stone giant names. There's probably giant names. Stone giant name generator. Weird. Okay, giant names. There it is. That was easier than looking below for some reason. I don't know. What do we want our giant's name to be? Mesus, Avor, Trezor, Clotdus, Zladfium, Demom, Kruvog, Lurag, Slizmir. And then I'll just go through these, right? Till I see something that I like. He's kind of a good guy, so let's, do we want a female? Yeah, we'll just go with the guy. We'll go with Hikaeos, the friendly stone giant. Right, it brings green beans to the festival. Or not. That's different. Stone giant. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else remembers those. Do they still have those commercials? I don't actually have cable TV anymore, so like the Jolly Green Giant, but instead this would be like the Jolly Stone Giant, I guess. Bringing some green beans to the spring festival. Maybe that's what happens. And then we need a halfling bard name, so we're gonna go back here and go back to, and there should just be halfling bing. Wow, look at that. Murder Gold Topple. Murder. Their name is Murder. Awesome. But we'll just let's do a female. Gilzana. Here we go. Trinley Applesong. I like it. Trinley Applesong. Trinley Applesong will be a halfling bard who can also help out in the combat if our PCs get into too much trouble. Holy smokes. I've been going for too long. Okay, what are we at? An hour and a half already. Man, we can really go down some rabbit holes while we're making some adventures, aren't we? And I am not speeding this up, which is okay. For our town guards, I would do the same thing, right? So we'll probably get, we'll just put a note here, 3 names. Give them potentially like 2 to 3 names, potentially a couple different people. Maybe there's a good cop, bad cop, and they can try talking to one or the other or both. And they're like, oh, screw the bad cop guy. Let's go talk to the good cop girl, lady, policewoman, whatever. But they don't like one of them, so they can go talk to the other. And you can probably do something, I don't know. Maybe you can do something fun with it. Make them some dwarves and they have like opposite names or something. I'm trying to think of something as we get into more details, right? All right. So here we know that Trinley, so now we have Hikaeos, right? Bio and info, edit. Okay. Hikaeos is our stone giant, and GM notes. So, or bio and info. I don't think it matters because you just want to be careful what you share with your players. If you're uncertain and you think you might be sharing some of the character sheet with them, show it to them. There's like little buttons, right? So there's a little button where you can do show to players, right? If you had like a picture in here or something like that and you wanted them to see some info, if that's the case and you're tempted to do that, just put it in the GM info, GM notes. Okay, so GM notes, and this is where we're going to get into some more detail again, right? For Hikaeos. Wow, I like scrolling. There we go. Gotta be smarter. Yep. All right, so Hikaeos, when the PCs go talk to Hikaeos, why would they go talk to Hikaeos? I don't know. You describe them, right? So we get some description of Hikaeos, and maybe what would make them think that Hikaeos has any knowledge? And you know, they don't even necessarily need to talk to Hikaeos directly. They could overhear, can be overheard telling guards that so we still have our map open. Yeah, we do. Okay, so we're in this little town, Amp Hale, and we're gonna go have a beholder ruin somewhere, right? So maybe up in these hills, there's a beholder stronghold. And so it makes sense for our stone giant to be from maybe the Sword Mountains, right? Which is cool. So we could have the stone giant share with the guards that they harassed him in the hills to the west of town. All right. That he was harassed by a group of the werewolves in the hills west of town. Harasser. Harassed. All right. Harassed by a group of the werewolves in the hills west of town. And then, you know, then at least we're giving the PCs like a direction and a reason to come talk to Hikaeos, right? And then once they've talked to Hikaeos, so this is like free, right? This is like what I call DC 0, right? It's DC 0. And then we want to have some type of interaction, and whether you do it with an actual roll or just how well they talk to your stone giant, right? So you can have like I'm just gonna put some lines in here, like a DC 5, DC 10, and then maybe like a DC 15. You can go higher if you want to get into more detail, but these would be what I would try to do, right? Is to think of different tidbits that they can reveal at a different level of interaction, whether that is actually a persuasion roll, an intimidation roll, or a deception roll. You know, however they're trying to get this information out of the stone giant, or if it's just really good role playing, then maybe just on a sliding scale. Maybe they just have to ask the right questions, and the giant is completely helpful regardless of their roles, right? You can decide to do it either way. It really depends on how much you want them to find out. So in this case, what I'm kind of thinking here is we give them DC 0. They don't have to do anything. All they have to do is, hey, you over here, hey, you have this good passive perception. Good job. You just happen to overhear the very deep-voiced Hikaeos telling the guards that he was harassed by a group of these werebores in the hills west of town, and that they probably came from there. DC 5 is again like free information, and this could be how many he was attacked by. DC 10, something a little more intricate, and DC 15 is maybe like he'll show the way to the stronghold that he saw them near. So DC 10, right? So maybe DC 15 is like, hey, now you have a guide, right? I'll show you where the stronghold is once you're ready to go. I got to go back that way anyways. Whatever. Maybe, you know, and this is like, hey, we're buddies now. You scored really well on your roll. All right. DC 10 would be, and you can always change these too, right? You can put whatever you want in here if you have some really persuasive players with really good charisma, and you know that like, hey, DC 15 is like the lowest that this guy's going to ever roll. My bard has a charisma of 52, whatever, 20, 18. You know that they're going to make like this 15 like 9 times out of 10 or whatever for whatever reason, because they have so many bonuses. Then maybe you want to make this a 20, right? So maybe this is like a 20 and a DC 10. Hikaeos remembers seeing a ruined fort in the area where he was attacked. Maybe that's where they hide out. All right, and then DC 5. So he's already heard, you've overheard them saying that he got attacked out west of town. And DC 5, I don't know, something interesting, right? So something that helps them beyond just being west of town. They go up and talk to him, and they're not making super good friends. Then he's just like, look, all I can tell you is it was is there anything about that map that like stood out, right? I don't know. You could say, so we got like the forest, right? So you could say like it's, give them like some better directions, right? So he was attacked west of town in the hills, and I don't know. There's like how else could they find this? It's so the stronghold was on top when he got attacked. he was near a lake in the hills. Right, and so they could potentially find like, hey, yeah, there's only like one pond that's over here in the hills, and a little bit better chance to go find it, right? And beyond that, like, we don't want our players to like get lost finding this place either, so this could be like a bit of a non-issue going in to find it. One of the bigger things is that you're probably going to want to give them a little bit of personality, right? So the personality of this Hikaeos, and come up with like a physical description too. I mean, I'd go look at some pictures of stone giants, which I don't want to just go like searching around a whole bunch right now. But we'll find like this personality for Hikaeos, and how do I want to talk to my players? And maybe in this case, he's friendly, right? Tolerates the humans, but he's getting something in return. So he goes in, sets up the fairy ring, and then he's probably getting in return gets like some seeds, right? So that he can grow his green beans and corn and whatever else he puts in cans for us. And yeah, for our jolly green giant, so which he kind of is. All right, so our happy so he's friendly to the townsfolk, but usually lives on his own, right? And probably not super high charisma. Let's see what the charisma is like for, and we could change this stuff. So a little not quite charismatic, fairly smart, pretty wise and perceptive. All right, so I'm thinking maybe he just talks really slow, purposeful, like a mountain, right? Not like me. Speaks slow and purposefully. Reminiscent of a mountain. And so we can make this very slow. And you don't have to overdo it, right? You just want to do it enough to give a personality so that your players can tell the difference between the characters that they're talking to, and not every single one of them is Danger Myke or Toy Clan or ABC213 or Vilixion. They want to know the difference, when they want to know, make it obvious when they're talking to Hikaeos, right? So now we have a little bit of this plot for Hikaeos, given the direction along our plot. We've given some locations in the hills, right? So we know we need a lake in the hills. We can do like a little local map if we wanted to. People could ask around, right? Ask some of the locals, like, hey, do you know where this lake is in the hills? And they're like, oh yeah, you just go due west, right? Super easy. Or go towards the triple peak, right? Or something kind of obvious, right? And so they could potentially get some more information if they really don't want to go talk to a second NPC because they like talking to this guy and how slow he speaks. Then they could just keep getting there. If they really hit it off, then he'll accompany them, and maybe you have the journey take long enough that they stop for lunch and have a little story RP time, because obviously if they want him to come along, they may like how you've made his personality and how you're talking to him. So Hikaeos is gonna speak slowly and thoughtfully, but very definitively, right? And then you can just have it, and it's kind of cool. I mean, it'll take a little bit of practice, right? To give them like a different personality. You don't have to get super crazy, right? Just a little bit different rhythm. And they may get a little frustrated if you go like a little too slow, but it'll give you a chance to really give the information and think through it, as sometimes I like going a little slower because it gives you more time to think about what is this character going to say. So depending on what they roll, go, yes, I was accosted by those bandits. west of town. In the hills, near a lake. In the shadow of the Triple Peak Mountain. And they get their information. It's a little bit, you know, I mean, it's slow, but not, I don't think, too crazy to wait for. And maybe they like it, maybe they don't. But either way, at least they can tell the difference between that and when they go talk to the Halfling Bard. Right? And so we would do the same thing for the Halfling Bard. You could also do the appearance, right? Appearance is great. The one thing here is I'm not going to get it. The one thing personally, unless I'm doing a comparison between two characters and one is 6 foot tall and the other is 6'4", then I don't care how many inches tall they are. I don't care, or meters or centimeters. I don't care what their body weight is. And I don't get into it. For our giants, even if I look it up in our compendium and I look up a stone giant, it's going to say something in here, I think. Oh, maybe it's in the lore. But it'll say about how tall they are somewhere. Storm giants highest, followed by cloudfire, stone, and hill giants. The hill giants we didn't want to use because they were kind of too dumb, right? And they were like pretty low. So he's bigger than a hill giant. Traits. No. Okay. Give me a description. Did I just like scroll past wherever their height was? Huge. DnD5e stone giant height. About 18 feet tall. Okay, cool. Good enough. That's all I care about, right? I don't care if, and I do the same thing with my characters too. Sometimes I'll get their height just for whatever, for reasons. About 18. Who says about 18 feet tall? He's about 20 feet tall. Right? Just about. About. Does anybody say 20 feet? He's about 2 stories. About as tall as a 2-story building. Really? There's no E in story? Okay. About as tall as a 2-story building. And athletic build. No, we'll give him a stocky build, right? Because we're trying to get the mountain into him, right? Stocky build. And give him a stone giant. What kind of stone? Like, we could pick a stone, right? So skin is speckled like granite. Eyes shine white like quartz. Right? Something like that. So we'll give him some rocky features because he's our stone giant. So, I mean, I think that's plenty, right? They don't necessarily, we don't have to describe everything they're wearing and everything that they're carrying if it's not super interesting. Although in this case, we could say wears giant furs. You don't notice stitching and wonder what beast they could be from. Right? So he's obviously slain some giant beast, and you're just wondering what is so big that it covers like a 2-story building, right? Because you don't see like a bunch of small furs stitched together or something, right? Cool. They get something, right? Just something to describe as we as they meet Hikaeos, and something to occupy their mind. Drop some people are very verbal. If you want to, you can get pictures drawn. Somebody wants to sketch it. whatever. We'll just give them some details, and people aren't even going to pick up on all of those details, right? So even as you describe this stone giant to them, some people are going to pick up on his eyes shining like quartz, or remember for that. Some people are going to go, oh, speckled like granite, like I can picture, right, this speckly granite, and I think that's super cool, and hey, I never thought of describing something like that, whatever. And they're most likely just going to remember how he speaks pretty slow with pauses and doesn't say useless things that he doesn't mean, right? And so yeah, and that he's yeah, probably not super forthcoming, but we have our DC rolls. Hey, look at that, we got an NPC, right? I wish I had started out by doing our villain. I don't know how interesting our villain is going to be, honestly. But cool. We got like Chaos, the NPC, and if we linked, so in our spring festival, let's say we're running this adventure, right? By saving Chaos here, save changes. That means when I get to my spring festival page, my intro page, and I can run it basically from here, right? I have like my little description, and if this was actually running the campaign, I could describe a little more of what's going on. It depends on how much you want to play out at the festival. If we're just describing them at the festival, and what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to go roll some hoops? Do you want to go, I mean, you could come up with that, have some little games that they could do if you want to do it, completely optional. Otherwise, they could be there drinking, eating. Tell me what's your favorite dish, right? Are you going for the giant turkey leg? Are you going for the deep fried bacon, chocolate covered bacon? I don't know. Some festival foods, right? Like what would you like to see at the and you could try and draw people in like that. Some people not going to be into it. The big thing that we made up was like our orange flavored lager, right? Cool. Spring, yummy, delicious. You have it. Kobolds are doing can. Boom, there's an attack. Werebores are everywhere. Roll initiative, right? Yeah. All right, cool. Then we have our little fight, and now it's time to investigate. What the heck are these werebores doing attacking, right? And they over here, Hikaeos, our stone giant, telling the town guards, yeah, they attacked me west of town. I have no idea why, but I hucked some big rocks at them, and then they left me alone. Although he's going to say it quite a bit differently than that, right? We pulled up this whole thing. But regardless, if I'm running it from here, I have my werebore bandits, so as soon as I need them, I can pull them up and see like their character sheets. And here I can click like initiative. You can pull, I think one of the things that you want to do is throw the token in here. Yeah, you want to like drag over default token option, use selected token. Yeah, so we could probably pull a token. Can I do it? Do it. Make it easier for me. Roll 20. No, they said no. I think you could drag them onto your map, honestly. Yeah, whatever. Okay, I could do this. Use selected token on. Oh, my bad. Select. Use selected. Hey, look at that. There we go. Okay. Save changes. Now I got a default token. I wonder if I can still delete this. Probably. Character sheet, bio and info. Gotta edit it to see. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. You may want to just have put some in your journal or whatever. But I thought that you could. Oh, yeah, he has that. So now I think if I drag my werebore over, look at that. Cool. But that's werebore, not werebore bandit. Oh, we still did it. Sweet. Okay, I guess it worked even if it doesn't look like it worked. Because now if I go over and we get ready to fight, I just drag my Werewolf bandits over there. Awesome. A little Roll20 stuff. Not so much about making our adventure, but whatever. We're making our adventure DnD5e in Roll20. Cool. So anyways, fight our Werewolf bandits, right? Direct from our sheet. Pull them up. And then, hey, yeah, they need to talk to Hikaeos. All right. So I guess it helps if it's closed, but whatever. So now they need to talk to Hikaeos. Okay, there it is. And then I'll open it up. I guess make sure you don't have it minimized before you close it or something. Just close it all the way out when it's fully open like this. And then we go, okay, here's my notes, right? So, okay, Hikaeos. Yeah, you hear him across the way. You see the stone giant talking to a couple guards. He's about as tall as a 2-story building. He's got a stocky build. Skin is speckled like granite. His eyes shine like white quartz. He wears giant furs. You don't notice stitching of like smaller animals together, and it kind of makes you wonder what the heck kind of beast they could be from. Across the way, his thundering voice, you hear him telling the guards that he was attacked or harassed by a group of the wereboars in the hills west of town. What do you do? Right? Okay, let's go talk to him. I'm going to talk to him as soon as he's done talking to the guards. Or let's listen in a little bit more, right? Whatever. If you just want to give him free, I mean, how much do you think the guards are going to ask him? Okay, thanks, gianty guy. Green giant. How much do you think he's going to add to the conversation with the giants? Depends on like how much do you want to give away for free? Do you want to have them like interact with him directly? Probably. I mean, you spent the time to make him and give him a name and all this stuff. So maybe that's just all the useful stuff that the guards are interested in. They're not great guards investigating this huge crime. And maybe even at that point, they're interrupted by the children running in saying they've taken Chrysaorif, our magic item vendor, right? Which, if that's the case, then the PCs can go track Hikaeos down later. So, made an NPC. Got a couple names for our others. We would do the same thing for Trinley Applesong, who's our bard, and we probably should to get figuring out this whole B story plot line, right? B story, and then where was our C story gonna come from? I don't even remember. Just like a rumor, like from the tavern or something, right? So maybe we need a additional NPC. Do this in the same way, right? So why would come up with some reason why the PCs may possibly talk to this halfling bard, and this was supposed to be kind of an odd pairing. So maybe you could pair them in any way, right? If you make it look like they kind of go together in our, what do we call it? In our brainstorming? Help me out. I got to open it, don't I? Brainstorm? Strange bedfellows, right? And maybe that is quite literally what's going on here is that some of the travelers are just sleeping in tents next to this henge that's been set up for the festival. It's like a tent city. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know. Yeah, we need to find some way to like tie the halfling and the giant together. So maybe they're just like camping in the same area. Maybe there is like a huge festival ground and people camp out there if they're not local. And that's where the party's like camped out a little bit, and then nearby, giant taking a nap in the grass, stone giant. I mean, he probably just curls into a ball of rock and becomes a boulder for the night. I don't know what they do. And halfling, right? Maybe comes over and strumming and singing songs, and they know him from like where they're camping out. Depending on how long are they going to stay? It's already night. Do they want to take off in the night and go chase down this kidnapped guy? I don't know. So you may have to play it loosey-goosey or come up with better reasons. And that may take like a little bit more thought, right? So I'll try and give that a little bit more thought over the next couple days and see if I can brainstorm some stuff to bring back in this halfling giant pair, right? To pair them more closely. Find some reason for the halfling to need to be talked to. Maybe they come in and maybe they're investigating also, right? So maybe they come in, and when the PCs are going to talk to anybody else, whether it's the guards or the giant, the halfling is butting in and doing a bit of their own investigation. And hey, maybe we could share some info, right? And then again, you have your like DC 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever information. Like, what are they going to get from the halfling and what do they want? Right? Which is probably the other thing that we should do for our stone giant is what is their motivation, which is just to be like, I don't know, get their green beans for setting up the fairy ring, the henge, right? Have a good time, be peaceful, whatever. Just not get harassed by wereboars on the way home. And so, yeah, maybe the halfling just kind of butts in, right? And that's how we bring the halfling in there. And depending on how well they do with dealing with the halfling butting into their investigation and doing their own investigation, the halfling is looking into the story of this shamed noble, right? Maybe they were something in that plot that shamed the noble involved this halfling in somehow that they were at a loss, and they've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And so we could get some more detail on that. Again, sometimes this takes a little bit of time, right? So you're gonna have to like spin this stuff around in your head, type some stuff out. And I've already been going for about 2 hours and got meetings in the morning and stuff. So I'm gonna leave it here for tonight with just the one NPC. We got some of our character sheets, our NPC sheets done. Got some ideas for this whole Rainbows in the Dark puzzle that we're going to go in and expand on next time. And yeah, so I think next time we'll get in, we did some NPCs. I think next time we'll really get into, spend another time on our major points, right? Really build up the villain and get some notes on the linkages and which parts are visible to the PCs and what they can find out from that. How are they going to clue into that vampiric Thrall bond, and how can we work in our halfling Trinley Apple song when she butts in to the investigation and just imposes herself in there. She's a bard and singing song, maybe a little bit of spy background or something, and wants to try and expose the merchant for bad things that he's done in the past, right? And so she's going to be I mean, if you want to get really creative, maybe she's just singing a song about it. Like straight up before all this happens. If you felt like writing a song, she could be singing a song. I don't think I'm going to compose like a song of lyrics about this guy, but it would be another way to go about it, right? And she could also be tied into Chrysaorif, right? So as the PCs look interested in investigating it, she could become more involved in it. And just, I know he's behind it somehow. I've seen some of this stuff happen in, what was it, Waterdeep nearby or something like that, where he was ousted, right, from his seat on the whatever council for doing similar bad crap. So let's go investigate him too, right? And we'll figure out if there's like some clues to how they can figure out that he is a vampiric thrall. Set up our puzzle, I think, and then get into, we have like a map of our beholder stronghold already that we just randomly generated, which is cool. And we have a reason for it to be there. We can get into a little bit of history there just in case we kind of need it. And maybe, you know, I mean, that way you can involve like some history checks and stuff and see when we get into some of, we'll probably need a little bit for right, the abandoned beholder part of it leading to this other treasure, and let's see how we can pull that in. But we will do that next time. If you are watching and you haven't yet hit that follow button, we are super close to affiliate, so please before you leave, go ahead and hit that follow button if you haven't already. Totally appreciate it. Toy Clan, thanks for sticking around with us and chilling. It's going a little slower than I anticipated. We may end up with like a 6-part series or something like that. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm definitely having fun getting into some of these characters and showing how we can sort of roll them around. I mean, everybody gets writer's block and gets stuck and stumbles sometimes, right? And so sometimes it just doesn't go super fast. It may be hard to throw an adventure together in 3 hours, which is why we start preparing early, right? But I hope this kind of demonstrates some of the things you can do to start riffing off of your own stuff, and why we do like some of these brainstorming. Don't be afraid to go back to it, and some of the ways that you can relate, right, your own ideas to each other, and try and build those relationships, and considering the important things that you want your PCs to know, not just the story that's in your head, right? I really hope that all makes sense, and I really hope this is helping. If you're trying to DM or build your own adventure yourself. So please, I'll end up with this on YouTube, and if you're seeing this on YouTube in the future, because now would be the past, and like when it's on YouTube will be the future, like probably, I don't know, like Tuesday or Wednesday. So if you're watching this in the future, write a message to me in the past now, but I won't read it until it's in the future. So you write it to past me, but I'll get it in the future. And I would love to know like which parts you enjoyed and helped you. Ooh. I was like way out of focus. That was super blurry. Weird. Yeah, so leave a comment like in the YouTube video or whatever, and let me know. Be careful posting this until my players will not experience it, unfortunately. So yeah, so because we're basically spoiling it here live on Twitch and putting the videos up, this is an adventure that I'm making solely to show how to make an adventure. So it's a whole lot of work for something that maybe nobody will ever get to play. I don't know. We may do like a what might be fun, and at some point would be kind of cool, is after everybody's forgotten all about this, maybe I'll run like a little one-shot for some future viewers and community members or something like that, and see if we can sneak it in there and people will have forgotten about it by then. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just throw it up on DM's Guild. And yeah, but yep, we're just making this adventure so that we can demonstrate a process of how to go through and make an adventure. And I'm hoping that somebody pulls something useful out of it, even if it's just a couple of the links that we share. I think on the last video, I put down like all the links that I used as far as like Donjon and Forgotten Realms Wiki and the Kobold Fight Club link and stuff like that. So even if that's all that you get out of it and you just use your own process, I don't know, maybe you think like this linking thing is cool, where you can pull up stuff in Roll20. I like it. Helps me organize too. But yeah, if you just pull like little pieces out of it or whatever, hey, that's great too, and I'm super happy. But I think we're gonna call it a night here with our spring festival started. We got one of the NPCs. I may go through and pull in Trinley, and I may leave that one up for like future development, right? We may just go straight to our villain, and maybe I still am thinking about making like a Were Aardvark or a Were Bandicoot that we mentioned last time. I don't know 100% that they'll fit. I think we obviously can just roll straight through this with just our werebores. And I've even shown sort of how to like try and guess at balancing some of those encounters. So I think next time we just go through and make sure we have our villain, maybe develop this noble a little bit and that story, so we can kind of keep mostly in line with our A story, but show the B story a little bit there, or perhaps just the C. Maybe I'll just go down and do the C story, right? And so we'll develop those, leave the B story up to the imagination, and then roll through with our 2 stories where we go into our specific details, and we've even started touching on some of that, right? But I'll want to touch on like some random encounters, how to put together random encounters and make them useful, interesting, meaningful, things like that. And running some fights, puzzles. Definitely want to put together that puzzle. So that'll be next time or the time after. And yeah, and then I'll probably do an entire episode just to make like a map, or at least start to make a map. I have never used Incarnate, but it looks super cool and I really want to try it out. And I've done some like old school looking maps, like very first edition looking stuff where it all looks like graph paper and stuff, and put those into Roll20 before, and even those like players have fun with it, so don't feel like you have to go like all crazy with your battle maps. But I do want to develop out at least a couple, like at least one battle map. I'm not going to draw a ton of them. I'll probably just draw one battle map and see how that goes with Incarnate. So we'll probably spend an episode doing that as well. A lot of fun stuff to look forward to. Saturday, the time that I have scheduled for this, I will be at the air base doing my National Guard duty. And so I will not be able to do that time. I will post a rescheduled time, whether it's going to be after my duty's over in the evening or another day. We'll have to see. But keep an eye on Twitter. If you're not following it right now, give us a follow on Twitter, and I'll always post there. News first. Socials. There we go. So yeah, just give us a follow on Twitter, and you'll definitely find out where I change that to, and I'll try and put it in our About Us or schedule below on the About Us page on our Twitch page as well. Thanks again for joining us. I have man, it takes me so long to say goodbye. It's what is it? I hate to see you leave, but I love to watch you walk away. Something I need a line. But anyways, until next time, I'm Myke Danger. Please take these tools and go out, jump behind a DM screen and do some damage with it. Until next time, love you and take care of yourselves.